J.J. Watt. Pass is caught. Diggs! Side the hole! He broke his ankles. Lightning strike from McCaffrey.
We're having fun. We get to have fun here. This is what it's all about.
It feels like every 5 minutes my phone is still blowing up with news from Schefter or Ian Rappaport or Tom Pelissero, whoever and wherever you're getting your NFL free agency news from. It seems never ending, which also goes into the point of that there's never an offseason in the NFL, and there's never an offseason here at the Swank Tank either. Welcome into the show. Welcome in to the Swank Tank. It is episode 43. It is Thursday morning, March 12th, and we have a phenomenal, a little bit more casual, but phenomenal show ready for you to watch or listen to on Spotify and or YouTube. First off, we're breaking down the Maxx Crosby situation. Have you ever seen a situation like this before to this degree, to this high of a level, given the picks involved, given so many things outside of the 2 first-round picks, outside of Crosby being a top 2 defensive end in the NFL, him giving a goodbye video, celebrating his sobriety, having a cigar, literally telling the city, thank you, adios, to then 3 days later saying, I'm back. Hey guys, I'm here and I'm ready to play? ? The Ravens getting cold feet? We're going to break all that down for you at the start of the show. After that, I'm giving you my 3 early winners of free agency, my 3 early losers of free agency on a team-by-team basis. I say early because free agency opened on Monday. It is only Thursday morning. Things are still very much green. Things are still very much changing. Things are still very much happening in terms of free agents and free agent signings across the league. And that will still be happening for weeks and weeks to come. Obviously, we'll slow down a little bit. We have a lot to dive into on the show. Appreciate you being here as always. If you're not already, make sure you go and follow on all these socials at The Swank Tank. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify. Those are the 4 spots you can find us at The Swank Tank on all of those platforms. Like, subscribe, and follow. Appreciate you guys so much. Again, as always, we are NFL only 24/7, 365. Without further ado, we're going to start the show with breaking down the Maxx Crosby, Ravens, Raiders, trade cancellation, and giving you my opinions on that. Let's do it. As I'm sure about 99% of you out there watching or listening are aware, because you watch the show for a reason, NFL only, 24/7, 365, you probably know your ball, but you probably want to hear about some of this major offseason quotes around offseason news, and that's why you're here. You know that Maxx Crosby is back on the Raiders. I'm assuming. Crosby back on the Raiders after the trade with the Baltimore Ravens was canceled and declined by Baltimore. Ravens have then gotten their 2 first-round picks back from 2026 and 2027. Crosby is back in Las Vegas. And then the Ravens go ahead and sign Trey Hendrickson, former Bengals defensive end, to a 4-year, $112 million deal. Trey Hendrickson is a Raven, not Maxx Crosby. Let's start with Crosby. Let's start with his injury from January. So he underwent surgery just 2 months ago in January of 2026 to repair a significant meniscus tear, and he had some cartilage damage as well alongside that in his left knee. So he had surgery just about 2 months ago, just under 2 months ago, right around there. The surgeon came out on Wednesday, or even late Tuesday night, one of the two, and stated that he is very much healing well. He is very much on track to be ready for the start of 2026. You know, things are getting real interesting and real serious when the literal surgeon of a player comes out and makes a statement, right? So when this trade announced Tuesday night by Schefter got declined or pushed back by the Ravens, everybody immediately the first question was, what's going on? 2, why? And the initial instinct was because, Crosby is not physically ready, right? Yes, Like, to a degree, yes, but at the same time, it almost is like the Ravens got cold feet regardless of his injury status. That being said, Crosby, surgery in January 2026, that was very evident. That was very public. That was very known. It wasn't like he had some Joe Mixon situation where nobody knew what the hell was going on. Everybody knew Maxx Crosby had a serious knee injury. Everybody knew that he just recently had surgery. And his surgeon comes out and states he's good, he's on track, he's actually healing faster than one may believe or one would anticipate given his injuries and given his surgeries. We move forward in this process. The Ravens are dumb. From an organizational standpoint, this was a very kind of bonehead move by them because either way you look at it, in terms of literally just this situation, not in terms of signing Hendrickson, not in terms of getting their picks back, in terms of just literally the Crosby situation as a whole, the Ravens, what exactly were they anticipating? What exactly were they thinking? On one hand, I can see to where, they have the physical, they have the workout, and he's much, much more injured than maybe you were told or maybe you believed him to be, right? Maybe he could barely get through any workout or any part of the physical. So on one hand, you could see, okay, maybe this injury is a much bigger deal than you would have thought, right? I do understand that slight part. Okay, so I want that to be known. But again, you knew the surgery happened. This happened 2 months ago. What human being will be remotely close to being active 2 months after a major knee surgery? Nobody on the planet. Not a single soul. So yeah, he was probably going to fail the physical. That's not really a shock. To me, at least, and I'm sure to a lot of other people. This was 2 months ago. Like, yeah, he's probably not going to perform very well in his physical, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's not on pace to be back in time or he's not healing well, right? Overall, I blame the Ravens, in this situation. I really just do. He got surgery 2 months ago. It was public. But at the same time, they got cold feet. And I saw a bunch of reports about that on Wednesday. The Ravens, they literally got cold feet about it. So yes, the injury thing was a concern, but at the same time, on the flip side of the coin, they backed out because they just didn't want to do it anymore. Injury aside. What an odd, an interesting situation. One I haven't seen in terms of this type of player in what was being traded, right? The gravity of this trade, of this move, and the effect it had not only on these two teams, but the league. I have never seen anything like this in terms of the gravity of those picks, of this player, of these organizations, right? So my question to you is, who wins this no trade, right? Nothing happened. Or did it? Nothing happened in terms of the trade itself. Crosby's still a Raider, at least for now. The Ravens still have their 2 first-round picks, at least for now, right? But that's not to say there wasn't an effect for both these teams. Both these teams went into free agency on Monday believing that, the Ravens have Maxx Crosby. The Raiders have a lot of free cap space. The Raiders have 2 extra first-round picks over the next 2 years. They operated in free agency under the belief that this trade was going to happen. I mean, this caused a ripple effect, not necessarily a negative one, but a ripple effect for both of these franchises, because I guarantee you if this trade wasn't in place, they would have acted differently on Monday or even on early Tuesday, right? So the fact that this trade was in place definitely had more of an impact outside of just the trade itself. Free agency started, free agency opened. Boom. They were making moves assuming this trade was going down. So this trade had a lot of implications outside of the literal 2 first-round picks in Crosby itself. In terms of money, in terms of free agent additions, in terms of teams' needs, huge impact across the board. And the Raiders spent a lot of money. Linderbaum, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Kwity Paye, Eric Stokes. Now Crosby's back, at least for now, getting his same deal he's had. He signed an extension last year, getting paid a little bit over $30 million in 2026. So they just spent a ungodly amount. I'm not saying it's not justified, but they spent an ungodly amount of money on these free agents. Now to just have Crosby walk back right in the building, another $30 million they got to allocate or just make sure they have. So a lot of things going on outside of just this little trade, right? Let's touch on the Ravens now with Hendrickson. So trade canceled. Yes, there was effects. Yes, they signed major players. The Ravens freed cap space by not bringing in Maxx Crosby, and they get their picks back. They then go and sign Trey Hendrickson to a big-time deal. On paper, you would like it. The Ravens need a defensive end. They get him. The Ravens need pass rush. They get that. So on paper, I think a lot of people like this move, especially given what they were going to pay Crosby, what they had given up for Crosby, and not giving up nearly as much. To me, on this show, I am a little worried about this move. I like the Maxx Crosby move, even though I know they gave up 2 first-round picks. Maxx Crosby is a pure game wrecker in both the run and the pass. When you look at Trey Hendrickson, he is a pure pass rusher. In the run, not really a dominant force. One of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL over like a 10-game stretch last season was the Baltimore Ravens. Bringing in Trey Hendrickson helps with the pass rush. Don't get me wrong. From a running game standpoint, it doesn't have that much of an effect. So alongside that, the core muscle injury last year, the kind of ongoing contract trouble from a year before, there's some gray area here in this signing, alongside the fact that Trey Hendrickson shouldn't have really been a Raven. Then it comes out that they were maybe targeting both Crosby and Hendrickson to come in. It's a whole debacle. Personal opinion, the Hendrickson move to me is not as great as it may seem to some of you guys watching or listening. You may love it. And that's great. I wanted the Ravens to continue to have Maxx Crosby for the foreseeable future because he's so dominant in both the run and the pass. Hendrickson, to me, a little bit of a gray area. Coming off a tough injury, and I understand Crosby would have been too. Totally get it. Coming off a tough injury, not so much of a run stopper. Yes, a pure pass rusher, which is what you need, but now you're paying him almost $30 million a year. It's like, okay, I can promise you it's not a Maxx Crosby. It's a need. That need is filled. Not quite to the Crosby level, of course. So tying all of these things together, right? It's good for the Ravens in terms of they get their picks back, I guess, right? They get their 14th overall back. They get their 2027 first-round pick back. So in terms of picks, it's good for the Ravens. They needed a defensive end. They got that. So it's good for the Ravens. To me, I just don't love it for Baltimore. Maybe as much as some of you out there watching or listening do. For the Raiders, just weird. Just weird. Crosby says goodbye, whole emotional thing. You know, he finally is on a new franchise or, you know, in a new city, posted a big social media video. The whole works. Just for him the next day to say, hey, guys, I'm back. That's not his doing necessarily, but just walks right back into the Las Vegas organization, the locker room, says, hey, I'm here. Let's get to work. Let's keep this rehab going. Just a weird situation in Las Vegas. So Baltimore, okay. Vegas, kind of weird, but hey, I still got Maxx Crosby, so I guess that's kind of good, right? Just overall, a very odd, weird situation. Hendrickson signing on paper is good. To me, not great. In the final statement I'll make, and I'll ask you first, do I think Maxx Crosby stays in Las Vegas? Yes, I do. Even after the emotional video, even after the cigar puffs, even after the whole situation just being odd and chaotic and really something we haven't seen before in the NFL in at least quite some time, I do think that Maxx Crosby stays a Las Vegas Raider. Almost like, you know, he left for a few days. Maybe he can come back with almost like a fresh restart. Almost like a more clear vision. Just a new start, it feels. And he only left for what? 3 or 4 days? Maybe it'll just kind of be like a motivation, like, hey, like I'm still one of the best in the league. Like, hey, I want to come back from injury sooner, healthier, faster, better. I think he stays. And I think the Raiders want him to stay, in all honesty. So that could definitely change, but I do think Maxx Crosby stays in Las Vegas. The Ravens get Hendrickson, okay. Good, not great. To me, You get their picks back. That's good. Weird situation. Just weird. I think Crosby stays. But we'll see down the stretch. All right, time to get into our losers of the early free agency period, and then we'll shift into our winners of the early free agent period. Again, if you're not already, go and make sure you're following on all the socials at the Swank Tank. Appreciate you guys. We're so close to 1,000 on Instagram. So close. Slowly but surely getting there. Make sure to tap in on all those platforms. Hope you're enjoying the new mic, new setup. New banner up top if you're watching. Really hope you're enjoying all that stuff. A lot of hard work going on behind the scenes to make this show what it continues to grow into. So appreciate you all. We're going to start with the losers. I got 3 early losers for you. In number 1, there's a few teams that could have been put here in number 1. I got the Jacksonville Jaguars as my biggest early loser in the free agency period. They have essentially done nothing. Like, almost as close to nothing as you can possibly do in a free agent period in 2026. Something they did do is they lost a lot of star talent. That is something they did do. They let them walk out the door. Maybe some were valid. To me, definitely some were not valid to let them walk out the door. Let's start with who they brought back. They brought back Monteric Brown. They brought back Dennis Gardeck. He's more of a special teams player. And they just recently signed Chris Rodriguez to play backup to Tootin in the backfield, not running back. So those are guys they've retained or signed. 3, with one being a special teams, one being a backup running back. Okay. They lost Travis Etienne, their star running back 1. Greg Newsome, a solid starting CB/safety for him. Devin Lloyd, their second best defensive player. They also don't have a first-round pick this year because they traded it away for Travis Hunter in last year's draft. So not only have they not re-signed anybody, they have brought essentially nobody in. They've lost 2 of their best 5 players, and they don't have a first-round pick. A little round of applause for the Jacksonville Jaguars in free agency? No? Oh, okay. That works. Not quite sure James Gladstone's plan over there in Jacksonville. Look, you got good players. You can't re-sign them all. And the next team will be saying the same thing for. But you got to pay somebody. Like, I understand you're paying Trevor Lawrence a lot of money. I believe, Josh Hines-Allen is getting paid a good amount of money. Outside of that, you bring in Jacoby Myers, you extend him. Bryce Thomas Jr., he's on a rookie contract. Where's all the money? Where is it? Unless I'm missing some major player outside of like a few I just named, where's the money? I don't get it. And they didn't seem to be too aggressive in wanting these guys to stay at the same time. You're not seeing reports about, ETN, got an offer, or Devin Lloyd got an offer. No. Maybe they did. From what I've seen, what I haven't seen or haven't heard, nothing. Not a thing. So the Jacksonville Jaguars and James Gladstone, I understand not wanting to overpay, and especially in this cycle of free agents, defensive ends have been getting paid a lot of money. Devin Lloyd didn't even get signed for that much money. I think it was like 15 to 20 mil a year. Like, that's a decent chunk. That's nothing like crazy. If I'm the Jags, I would have been a little bit more aggressive in the Devin Lloyd sweepstakes, especially given that he just, I believe, had 5 interceptions for you last season. Was one of your best defensive players. So Gladstone's probably bringing in this kind of new mindset to Jacksonville, saying, hey, it's a new team, it's a new organization. Yeah, we made the playoffs last year. We couldn't quite make that full push. We got to let some guys walk and kind of, just fill it in with the draft. Except they don't have a first-round pick. So for a team that turned the tide last season, not a lot of positives so far. For a team that turned the tide last season, tide's somewhat slowing down. Not really getting too close to the coast. So Jacksonville, for sure, is my number 1 loser so far of the early free agency period. Let's get into my loser number 2. Loser number 2 so far, again, this is so far, things can change, still a lot of free agents to be signed. The Philadelphia Eagles, in a very similar spot to the Jags, in a sense, right? Good teams can't afford to pay everybody because good teams have a lot of great players, offensively, defensively, even special teams. good teams can't afford everybody. That's well known. You got a lot of talent, you can't pay them all. That's just a fact. And with the Eagles especially, that remains true. They lost Blankenship to the Texans. They lost Dean to the Raiders. They lost John Dodson, Jalen Phillips to the Panthers, and maybe a few more, potentially, as we continue in the coming days. So those are some big-time players they've lost. Alongside that, though, A.J. Brown, questions swirling around him. Will he be traded? Jalen Carter, supposedly, could be shipped off. He's on the market to be traded. So not only have they lost some key players over there, their major key players still have question marks around them in terms of will they even play for the Eagles in 2026. So it's a whole, basket of issues when looking at this early free agency period for the Eagles. They've made one major signing, Brendan Reek-Woolen from Seattle. Pretty good signing there for a pretty cheap deal. Like that move. I expect them to re-sign Dallas Goedert. But again, they've lost some key players, and they may be trading away some other key players. This is kind of the how Howie Roseman run things over there, GM for the Philadelphia Eagles. Great teams can't pay everybody, so you're going to have to bite the bullet at some positions. At the end of the day, I trust Roseman. I trust that he knows what he's doing. I mean, the Eagles just won a Super Bowl 2 years ago. They've continuously been a very good playoff team over the past almost decade. Even though I know they just lost the Niners, I get it. But all things considered, I trust Roseman. Even with the Jalen Carter, A.J. Brown things going on, even with losing key pieces on defense, this is still a very, very, very good team. We haven't even hit the draft yet. We've only been in free agency just a few days. I believe still deeply, deeply in the Eagles. But in terms of pure off-season moves on both sides, brought in and letting go, the Eagles have definitely had a lackluster early free agency. I think that's for sure, and I think that is very evident to a lot of people around the league, inside the league and around the league as well. All right, let's move into our third biggest loser of the early free agency period. And this one might surprise you just a little bit because, no, it's not some scrummy team like the Cardinals or the Dolphins or the Jets. No. It is the Indianapolis Colts for me. The Colts have lost players like Michael Pittman in a trade, Kwity Paye, Nick Cross, Zaire Franklin they traded away, Braden Smith signed with Houston. They might still lose Mo Alley Cox, who's been with the Colts for, I think, like over half a decade, I believe. Been there a while. So they're losing some major starters. I believe all those names I just stated were starters. Pittman, Kwity Paye, Cross, Franklin, Smith, and maybe Mo Alley Cox, all starters, I believe. So, the Colts are losing these big-time players, but it's not just their losses. It's actually their additions, or let me rephrase. It's actually their re-signings that worry me down the stretch for the Indianapolis Colts. Let's go over them. Alec Pierce re-signs, right as free agency opened on Monday. Pierce re-signed with the Colts. 4 years, $116 million. That's $29 million a year. Let me back up a quick second and tell you that I really like Alec Pierce as a player. I think he's really taken steps forward over the past 2 years. He's led the NFL in yards per catch each of the past 2 seasons. He is a good of a deep threat as almost anybody in the NFL. So let me start by saying that. But they extended him 4 years, $116 million. That's basically $29 million a year. That makes Alec Pierce the 10th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL currently. He cracks the top 10 in terms of payment for wide receivers in the NFL on an annual basis. Respectfully, in what world is Alec Pierce a top 10 wide receiver? None. No world. He is good. I believe this past season was his first year over 1,000 yards. He's a deep threat. That's for damn sure. He is a wide receiver one. That's for sure. $29 million a year. That's a good amount more than Nico Collins. That's almost as much as Terry McLaurin. That's more than a lot of really good receivers in the NFL. Cortland Sutton, a lot of others, right? And I think you would rather take all those I just named over Alec Pierce. So, look, it's 2026. It's free agency. It's, kind of setting. He did set the market for wide receivers in the 2026 free agent class. It's an overpay. It's an overpay. Now, if you go on and win a Super Bowl, who gives a crap what you're paying him, right? Are the Colts primed for a Super Bowl run? Are they even primed for a playoff run? How I see the Colts right now entering 2026? No. God, no. Not at all. I don't even think they have the right guy, a head coach, in Shane Steichen. So, lots of question marks around this Colts team given their losses. And to me, I don't like their re-signings. I like Pierce as a player. I like that they brought him back. I don't like what they brought him back for in terms of the contract. And we haven't even gotten to the worst part yet. Daniel Jones' contract, he just re-signed on Wednesday, is logistically horrific. Horrific for the Indianapolis Colts. I have no idea what they're doing. 2 years, $88 million with up to $100 million in incentives? In what world should Daniel Jones, coming off an Achilles tear, be getting paid $44 million a year? That's a question I want you to think to yourself or answer. Daniel Jones can make up to $100 million over the next 2 years. Coming off an Achilles tear. Coming off a good season, not a phenomenal season, not a top 5 season, not a top 10 season, a good season. $44 million. Daniel Jones, this contract puts him as the 16th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Not horrific, but he can earn up to $100 million. So that can go from 44 to 50, which would put him pretty damn close to the top 10, if not in it. And coming off the Achilles tear, he's getting paid just as much essentially as Patrick Mahomes. Does that sound right to you? God, no. Mahomes should be getting paid more. Wouldn't you agree? Daniel Jones. The injury really concerns me. If there was no injury here, it wouldn't be that much of an overpay. Maybe just a little bit, but not that much. Coming off an Achilles tear, he's not some super young guy either. He's been in the league a decent while now. What, maybe 6 or 7 years? Oh, God. But I do really think it is around that amount of time. Complete overpay. Doesn't make a lot of sense. They had him on the transition tag. The transition tag, you would have had to pay him $37 million for this season. I don't understand why don't you keep Daniel Jones on the transition tag? What harm does it do? What, you're going to have to pay him more next season? See how he does this year for you off the injury and then pay him. This has been a very inconsistent quarterback since he entered the league several years ago. Doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. You would have had to pay him, what, 37? Way less money in 2026, keeping him on that tag. Instead of 44 a year, he's getting paid 37 for 2026. Doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So the Colts, what they've done, I like them bringing back Pierce. Don't like it for the number. And bringing back Daniel Jones, don't like it for the number. And they lost a lot of key players. So that's where the Colts stand for me. Honorable mention for, they weren't 1, 2, or 3 for me, but honorable mention, the Miami Dolphins. Don't understand what they're doing with the Malik Willis contract. You have Quinn Ewers there. You're in a full rebuild. You're completely tanking. Why pay a quarterback $25 million a year? I just don't get it. I don't get it. Paying him like $22 million a year, something like that. Why pay a quarterback at all right now if you're Miami? Just completely don't get it. So that's my honorable mention there. Let's now shift over to our 3 main winners from the early offseason period. Let's go. My number 1 winner, my early number 1 winner for the, so far, free agency period, the Las Vegas Raiders. We touched on them a little bit near the start of the show with the whole Crosby situation. They started free agency with the most cap available in the NFL. They have more than put that to use, and they've made several major moves with it. Tyler Linderbaum, who we predicted correctly, thank God, going to the Raiders, home run signing for him. Don't care how much they paid him. That is a very valuable piece to this team heading into 2026 and beyond. Love the move there. We knew that was going to happen. Nakobe Dean joins from the Eagles. Quay Walker joins from the Packers. Malcolm Kuntz stays in Las Vegas. Good signing there. Kwity Paye comes over from the Colts. Eric Stokes, Jalen Naylor, Matt Gay, Teron Johnson from the Giants. I mean, they made a lot of moves. And a lot of teams can make, numerous moves. But do I like them? I don't like them. I love them. Not every move is going to be a home run. Like Jalen Naylor, okay. Teron Johnson, okay. Like those are just smaller moves. But the big moves with Dean, Linderbaum, Walker, Kuntz, Kwity Paye, Eric Stokes, love it. Absolutely love it. And when you look at that, that's one offensive player and 5 defensive players from the ones I just named. So they obviously understand their weakness. And with the main weakness on offense, they got their guy. Like their offensive line across the board was probably the worst in the NFL in 2025. So bringing Linderbaum at center, probably the best center in the NFL, takes care of a major need for you. And then defensively, you bring in some pop with Dean and Walker and keeping Kuntz and Kwity Paye. So they got much more aggressive on the defensive side of the ball. They're starting to really bring that offense together. Linderbaum, like they have their anchors on offense now. They still need a lot of work on the offensive line. They will definitely target that in the draft, along with wide receiver. But they have their core. Like their core has come together. It's Mendoza, Linderbaum, Genty, Bowers. Like that is their core, right? Now you just need your core wide receiver one, and they're there. They're there. Outside of obviously more offensive line pieces. So the core is there. Defensively, they're bringing in a lot of pop and a lot of power, and honestly, just like a great mentality. Like I kind of want to rip your head off mentality with some of those players. They're hard hitting. So I love these moves the Raiders have made. They had a lot of cap. They spent that cap. That's what we're supposed to do with it. And they spent it effectively, which is what separates them from maybe some other teams. So alongside that, they shipped off Geno to the New York Jets. He's gone. Bye-bye with a late-round pick swap. I just like the moves they're making. It's pretty hard to not like them. So all those, they're getting their core correct. Defensively, offensive line, they're making the big-time moves. You're going to get Mendoza. You shipped off Geno. They're definitely going to draft a wide receiver. They're definitely going to draft some more O-line. They still have holes, but the core is now there and evidently there in Las Vegas, especially after they draft Mendoza. Alongside that, Kubiak, I love the signing of Kubiak from Seattle to be their head coach. It's just the core is there across the board. So it's an exciting time to be a Raiders fan because I believe this is probably the best core they've had since the early Amari Cooper, Derek Carr, Khalil Mack vibe. It's been a while. So very promising start to the full rebuild for the Raiders. At this point in time, couldn't be much better. Oh, except it did get better. You got Maxx Crosby back in the building. Maybe that changes, but the best defensive end in the league, second best, behind Myles Garrett, of course, is back on your team. That helps. So the Raiders are in a primed position to start the rebuild off in a big-time way. Big-time way in an effective way. Raiders are number one. Number two, we'll keep this one a little bit quicker, the LA Rams. The LA Rams are clearly the Super Bowl favorite for 2026 to win it. I will definitely be placing hard-earned cash on the, I almost say Las Vegas, the LA Rams to win the Super Bowl in 2026. Can you name any major player the Rams lost in free agency? I'll give you a second. I'll give you 3 seconds. Go ahead. While I adjust to my chair. No? Nobody? You can't name anybody? That's right, because they didn't lose anybody. They lost not a single major piece to that team in this free agent cycle. And I'm assuming they still won't as we continue on in the coming weeks. Jimmy G, he may leave. Roger McCreary, he may leave. That's it, guys. They haven't even left yet. But if players were to leave, it'd probably be those two guys. They kept essentially everybody. The Rams kept everybody. Not only did they do that, they brought in McDuffie, who's one of the best corners in the league. He's top 5. He's up there. Not only did they bring in McDuffie, they re-signed Cam Curl, their safety, to a big-time deal. Not only did they re-signed Cam Curl. Oh, yeah. What else did they do? Oh, yeah, they brought in that guy, Jalen Watson, from the Chiefs, who's also a really good player in the secondary. So they kept everybody, and they had one major need. And what did they go and do? They bring in one of the best DBs in the NFL in McDuffie. Then you go and sign Jalen Watson from the Chiefs, and then you re-sign Cam Curl. That's corner, safety. Oh, and they still have number 13 overall this year. They still have the 13th overall pick in this draft. It is a picture-perfect offseason for the LA Rams. They retained everybody. They fixed their secondary already. You bring in McDuffie from a big-time trade, pay him a bag. You re-sign Cam Curl. You go and get a guy like Jalen Watson who's got some good experience and can still be a really good starter for you in LA. You kept everybody. You already fixed the problem, and you still have the 13th overall pick in this draft. Unbelievable. Truly a incredible offseason from Snead and company over there in LA. Just fantastic. Fantastic from the Rams. I really can't say enough about it. Our third winner in the early offseason period, we've got the New York Giants. This one might shock some people as well. The New York Giants. And we'll start with some key players they've lost, because they definitely have lost some key players. They lost Wan'Dale Robinson, Cordell Flott, Daniel Bellinger, Austin Schlottman. Where'd they all go? So they lost all four of those players, relatively big-time players, especially Wan'Dale on the Giants. They're all gone. Where'd they all go? They all went to the Tennessee Titans. All four of them went from the Giants to the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, they followed Brian Daboll, but it's incredible. It's literally the New York Titans now. And they overpaid for almost all of those players I just named, by the way. Wan'Dale Robinson, love the player. He's twitchy, love what he can do. Overpay. Cordell Flott, say no more. Overpay. Daniel Bellinger, good blocking tight end, not too much used in the passing game. Complete overpay. Austin Schlottman, maybe not too much of an overpay. Those other three, I think, to me, got overpaid. Giants lost some pieces. They were not willing to pay that money. Completely do not blame them whatsoever. Those four players I just named, Wan'Dale Robinson, Cordell Flott, Daniel Bellinger, and Austin Schlottman, all went from the New York Giants to the Tennessee Titans. Combined, they're getting paid $45 million a year. I'm sorry. Does that sound accurate to you? Does that sound enticing to you? Does that sound like, oh, good move, Titans? I think it's a little bit of an overpay. Wouldn't you agree? I think so. Going back to the Giants here. Their additions, I thought, were much needed and vital. It will be vital. There's success in 2026 with Harbaugh now at the helm. They signed Isaiah Likely. Contract was a little rich for my taste, but they signed Isaiah Likely. Big time need. They got Theo and Likely now. Great 1-2 punch in the tight end room. Tremaine Edmonds brings such a veteran presence that Giants team needs at the linebacker position. Such a Harbaugh type of guy. Hard-headed, plays, kind of with his hair on fire, aggressive, veteran leader of your defense, Tremaine Edmonds. They re-signed Elementer on offensive line. Big time there. Evan Neal re-signed. Interesting move there, but another body on O-line, I guess. Under the radar signings of Greg Newsome, Patrick Ricard from the Ravens goes to the Giants, and punter Jordan Stout, along with kicker Jason Sanders. So special teams, O-line, veteran presence at linebacker, a tight end Isaiah Likely. You got Dart, you got Neighbors, you got Scatabo. It's coming together over there in New York. You got the main guy at the helm. Reminds me a lot of the Raiders, to where you just see the core materializing, not only from the players but from the staff. Harbaugh's the guy. We all know it. He's been the guy for 17 years. You got the coach. You got the quarterback. You got the wide receiver. You got probably the running back. Now you go get your veteran leader on defense alongside a guy like Brian Burns, alongside some other big-time presences over there in New York, right? Secondary still needs work, 100%. 100%. Secondary still needs work. And maybe a little bit more at linebacker. But just the core, when you see the core materializing and being solidified as it is in New York for the Giants, brings a little smile to my face. They're going to be an exciting team to watch in 2026 when those players come back fully healthy. Their core come back fully healthy. Honorable mention here is the Steelers. That may shock you as well. That's why I didn't put them in my top 3. Honorable mention is the Steelers. But I like what they've done so far. So ignore quarterback for a second. Really hard to do because it's the most important position on the field. Just bear with me. Ignore the Steelers quarterback situation for just 30 seconds. They trade for Michael Pittman for essentially nothing. Late round pick swap, give him a 3-year extension. Getting a player like Pittman for almost nothing, I like it. Pittman can definitely have 1,000 yards next year. He plays a little bit like Metcalf, so I don't love that their playing styles are relatively similar, but quality wide receiver that can be a great wide receiver too for you. Steelers lacked that last year. Bring in a good guy in Pittman. I like the move overall. Sign him to a 3-year extension. They're bringing Rico Dowdle. You lose Gainwell, you bring in Dowdle. Maybe slight upgrade from what we saw out of Rico Dowdle in 2025. Like the move. Jamel Dean joining this team is huge. Don't think that's been talked about enough whatsoever. Dean had one of the best seasons in 2025 from any corner in the league. Huge veteran presence on this team. Secondary is a big, big need for the Steelers. Dean is one of the best corners from this free agent class. Love the move there. So Pittman, Dowdle, Dean, all upgrades to me so far from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They re-signed Cam Hayward as well to a 1-year extension. Love that move. This team still has a lot of questions, mainly at quarterback, so bring that back into the picture. Who the hell is going to be their quarterback? Big question. An important question. Don't get me wrong. But behind the scenes, I kind of like the moves the Steelers are making. Kind of like it. Just a little bit. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our episode 43, our early offseason winners and losers alongside the Maxx Crosby situation. I appreciate you more than you know if you made it all the way to the end. Again, go and make sure you're following on all the socials at the Swank Tank. We're NFL only, 24/7, 365. Your one-stop shop for everything and anything NFL. We're ramping up towards the NFL draft. That's content you do not want to miss. Again, we do 1 episode every Thursday morning in the offseason. During the season, we do 2 episodes a week. Can't wait. I mean, we're so far away, but we're honestly closer than we may think. And we're very, very close to the NFL draft. Hope you're enjoying this content. Appreciate you guys so much for tuning in if you made it all the way to the end. We will see you next week. Have a good one.